and sometimes even some ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions are, those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on.
He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one.
Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like
Absolutely.
on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
This year on GB News, we've got brand new members in the family.
Join us. Across the entire United Kingdom, we cover the issues that matter to you. GB News will always stay honest, balanced and fair. We want to hear whatever is on your mind.
And we don't talk down to you.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you. Britain's watching.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians
That's right.
as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway,
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, Andrew Pierce here. Join me every Friday lunchtime for a proper no-nonsense debrief of the week's events. With special guests in the studio and the GB News team on the ground, I'll be getting you up to date with news, some intelligent discussion, and my own sharp take. The weekend starts here with me every Friday lunchtime on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. In a moment, it's Headliners on GB News. But first, let's bring you up to date with the latest headlines. And the top story tonight, the former Chancellor Nadeem Zahawi has given HMRC approval to release files relating to his tax affairs to the independent investigator. It follows the Chief Executive of the HMRC, Jim Harrer, telling MPs there are no penalties for innocent errors after being questioned by the Public Accounts Committee. The Tory party chairman, Zahawi, is facing calls to resign after it emerged he'd paid a penalty to HMRC whilst he was Chancellor. The Prime Minister says there were no issues relating to him when he appointed him to his current cabinet role.
Because Nadeem Zahawi himself put a statement into the public domain and there was other reporting, there are questions to answer, and that's why I asked the independent advisor to conduct an investigation to fully establish the facts and provide advice to me about Nadeem Zahawi's compliance with the ministerial code.
Well, the current Chancellor is warning a disciplined approach to public finances from the government is the way to get inflation under control. At a Cabinet Away Day, as they call it, Jeremy Hunt, along with the Prime Minister, said tough decisions made in the autumn statement have helped pave the way to reduce debt. He's facing calls from some Tory MPs to cut taxes, though. In his March budget, he told ministers helping more people back into work was one of the most important steps for economic growth. International news, and at least 11 people have lost their lives in Russian missile strikes in Ukraine, a day after the US and Germany pledged to supply the country with tanks and infantry fighting vehicles. More than 10 were wounded in the attacks, which were covering the regions from around the capital and across the western part of the country. Germany's defence minister says he expects the first Leopard 2 tanks to arrive in Ukraine by the end of March, as will the UK's Challenger 2 tanks. Russia has responded, with the Kremlin saying the deliveries of military hardware amounted to direct involvement in the conflict by the West. Now, as you've been hearing throughout the day here on GB News, Scotland's First Minister has confirmed a transgender person convicted of rape will not be sent to an all-female prison. Earlier this week, Isla Bryson, formerly known as Adam Graham, was found guilty of raping 2 women before choosing to change his identity, his gender identity that is, to female. At First Minister's questions today, Nicola Sturgeon stressed that she had addressed the row, and whether or not Bryson should be held at a females-only Corton Vale prison was now being discussed. She also confirmed a risk assessment was being carried out by the Scottish Prison Service. And lastly, His Majesty the King has been given a warm welcome during his first visit to the new Africa Centre in South London. His Majesty spoke to staff and visitors and heard how the centre provides a home away from home for Africans living in the UK. The new building is a 1960s former office block that's been transformed into a community hub for African culture, art and heritage. That's it. You're up to date on TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News, the People's Channel, where now it's time for Headliners.
Hello, I'm Andrew Doyle and welcome to Headliners, your first look at Friday's newspapers. Joining me tonight are 2 of the UK's biggest comedians by surface area. They're very tall. It's Leo Kearse and Scott Caporo. But first we're going to have a look at Friday's front pages. We're going to start with the Daily Mail, which runs with Hunt, time to stop talking Britain down. Easier said than done, of course, in the current climate. We're going to move on to the Telegraph now, which has Sturgeon trans law in disarray after rapist climb down. Now it seems the SNP agree that male sex offenders should be in men's prisons. Fancy that. Friday's Eye has Zahawi hands over tax returns as Tories urge him to go now. More on the beleaguered ex-chancellor there. And Friday's Guardian, a slap in the face, anger at U-turn over Windrush. The government have decided to drop reform commitments made after the Windrush scandal at the Home Office. And the front of Friday's Mirror now has Rod, we are failing. Pun on the song there. Even Rod Stewart thinks it's time to ditch the Tories. Friday's Express has Mr. Hunt, can we please start talking Britain up? And finally, Friday's Daily Star is running with unsettling news from boffins at Oxford University. We're all doomed. It's another catastrophising story about AI. And those were your front pages. Let's have a look inside. And we're going to kick things off with the front page of Friday's Telegraph. Leo, what have they got?
So their headline is Sturgeon trans law in disarray after rapist climb down. So it wasn't a rapist on the roof. That's a musical to go and see. This is basically SNP had this gender reform bill that they passed through Parliament, and this made it much easier for people to transition. So you could just sort of say that you're whatever gender, and then you're just that gender. You don't have to convince a panel of medical experts or anything like that. And people said, well, this will make it easier for sexual predators, men, to abuse the system. They can get access to women's spaces, women's prisons. They'll also get a new identity, which will hide their crimes. They'll have a new name, so anybody Googling their name, their crimes will be committed under their previous name, the male name. And the SNP said, oh, this will never happen. You're a transphobic bigot and a far-right extremist. The next day, it turns out there's a man who transitioned. He's been convicted of, been found guilty of raping 2 women when he was still a man. While he was going through the court process and being convicted, he transitioned and was held on remand in a women's prison. Right. Which, there's obvious safety implications. I mean, I'm not saying men aren't at risk from him either, but I mean, women definitely are.
Yeah, so Scott, I mean, this is a really interesting one, isn't it? Because part of the reason why something's actually happened, why the SNP have backed down, is I think because of so much fuss about this particular case.
Public outrage.
Public outrage, but also because of the look of the guy. I mean, he looks like a psychopath, and he is.
Well, we don't know what his emotional or intellectual state is, but he's known...
We know he's a rapist.
Well, we do, twice over, and we know that since he was 4, he wanted to be a lady. That's what he says now. And he's
don't think he might be capable of lying?
I don't know. I don't know him.
Right. The ex-wife, who presumably knows him quite well, said he's lying.
Well, they're divorced, so it didn't work out.
She's maybe having a go at him.
She might be a liar too. I just think that what the actual percentage we should be concerned with is that trans people in prison are like 19 times more likely to be raped than this person is to rape somebody else. And I agree, he shouldn't be in a female prison. He should be in a male prison.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's ridiculous. But we need to look at the protection of people who are vulnerable in the prison
Yeah, but
system.
Scott, we do that anyway. There are all sorts of classifications of prisoners who are vulnerable. You know, paedophiles, for instance, gay men are more likely to be attacked in mental.
And yet the numbers of rape continue to increase.
But that doesn't mean that we move them to a woman.
No. I just think that what people are concerned with is generally the safety of prisoners in jail, in prison. This person, they need to be moved out of a women's prison, obviously.
Yeah.
And this case needs to be looked at. But I hate to think that this is just the only thing we're concerned with about safety in prison.
But also, does it matter if this individual genuinely suffers from gender dysphoria or not? I actually don't care. This is a man who raped women and shouldn't be in a women's prison. I think it's as simple as that. Even if he believes himself to be a woman, I don't think the state should care about that.
Yeah, and prison is supposed to be a punishment as much as it's supposed to rehabilitate you. And the provisions, the SNP said, oh, we're going to make provisions in the women's prison. He's going to be held in the special unit and he's going to have, you know, his own special. It's like, who's paying for all this? And obviously the taxpayer's paying for all this. I don't know, as a taxpayer, I think, yeah, just chuck him in wherever, you know, I'm like, chuck him in a man's prison. Her in a man's prison. I don't want to get arrested by the SNP. I don't want to get arrested when I go back to Scotland, so chuck her in a man's prison.
Why don't we just, you know, let's just call it what it is. It's a man.
Yeah.
We should call him him. Is this going to be the point at which the media stop referring to things like her penis? Is this the point at which the BBC and all those news outlets that keep going on about this rapist, she did this, she
I
did
hope
that?
you never say her penis again, actually. This is the point we're going to stop doing that. But also, I think that what people are confused about, they're also a bit intrigued by. I think there's a bit of salaciousness involved in this case.
Right, okay.
Yeah. And I think that's a problem, too. And I think we need to reduce it to what it is, which is a lying criminal trying to get his way out.
Exactly.
If we're talking about harm coming to trans people, I mean, this is doing immense harm. The whole trans ideology, the gender ideology that the SNP and other leftists are trying to push through is doing immense harm to trans people. It's really turning public opinion against them. We can see in opinion polls, the percentage of the general population who support trans rights is actually declining, which is incredible.
Yeah. Because trans people have never claimed that they are not the biological sex in which they were born. They have that, otherwise they wouldn't be trans. Right? So this mantra of trans women are women is a nonsense. It's not true.
Well, it is a nonsense, and a lot of trans people feel that it wasn't established by trans people, that the word trans is actually an identifier for the mainstream culture to make themselves feel better about who they're talking to.
Exactly.
I mean, these people have never transitioned in their own minds. That person who is now identified as a female, not this person, but a person, has always been female. The transition is what you're witnessing.
That's what dysphoria means, though. That's the point.
But they're not transitioning. They've always been female. They're not transitioning. You're saying they're transitioning because that makes you feel better.
What I'm saying is that what I'm saying is that we have to run certain things in society along the classification of biological sex, and in those cases, even if you do genuinely suffer from gender dysphoria and feel like you're a woman when you're not, we shouldn't be entertaining that in those circumstances.
Yeah, but come on, if somebody's made a lot of effort, like Blair White, for example, there's no way you'd send Blair White to a male prison.
Why not?
Because
Blair White hasn't committed any crime, and she's not from this country.
Yeah, but somebody like Blair White, I think, somebody who puts the effort in. There's no way you could send somebody like that to.
I don't agree. I think we have to run prisons according to biological sex, and as I said, make special provisions for particularly vulnerable prisoners.
Having said that, in Scotland, there are prisons where the genders are mixed.
Yeah,
and that's scary too.
It is scary. We can't just have a system, Leo, where it's like, does Leo find them hot?
Yeah.
And if he does, then they get to go to a female prison. That is not only because it's such a grey area, but with my system, it's solved.
No.
OK, we're going to move on to the front page of the Mirror now, Scott.
I'm terrified of Leo's system. On the Mirror, Rod, he says, we are failing a play on the song, obviously, but Rod Stewart's very disappointed in the way England's turned out. He doesn't like it. He just doesn't like it. He praised Boris for winning, and then since then it's been a mess. He never praised Rishi. I don't know what their relationship is like. He's not written a song about him. He's not toured with him as his opening act. I think he's upset. I think he thinks that the Tories should hand the government over to Labour, let them give it a try. He's on the side of the nurses. You go, nurses, because he uses a lot of them.
Well, it's interesting what he's saying.
He needs the help of nurses, right?
I'm sure he's got private healthcare, though. He's bound to have
You never know the Scottish. They save it to go. But it's weird, I think what he's actually concerned with is the future of the UK, which we're all concerned with, actually.
Yeah, but he's not saying, listen, everyone, let's vote the Tories out next election. He's saying to the Tories, you should voluntarily let Keir Starmer in, as if that's going to happen.
The thing is, in a way, I think he finds Rishi Sunak so powerless and so weak that he doesn't think that it would be difficult for him to do. He thinks that he'd prefer to do that.
Leo, I mean, this is interesting. I think well, just experientially from the Tories I talk to, or the Tory voters I've spoken to.
Or the one you're married to.
That loads of Tory people don't really, they think it's about time that Labour came in, just to shake things up a bit, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a Conservative voter myself, or a sort of Liberal Conservative voter, I mean, there's no... We've been voting Tory, and we haven't got a Tory government. We've got this sort of wishy-washy, new Labour globalist government that's doing all the things that you vote Tory to avoid. And I think Conservatives don't win elections, or they don't. Labour don't win elections. Conservatives lose them. And I think there's nothing in the Tory party at the moment to invigorate people to get.
And there's an argument for letting the party settle and reset itself and find out what its actual issues are without scandal surrounding it all the time.
Isn't it just the case that it's good for every party every now and then not to be in power all the time? Because they get lazy and they forget about what their values are. And
it's like when my parents dropped me off in Mexico for 2 years.
Did they do that?
Yeah, they did on a beach in Puerto Vallarta. And I recovered quite well. And it was a reset for the family. When I came back, it all felt fresh and new.
You turned out fine, Scott. No issues there at all. We're going to move on now to the front cover of the Daily Mail. Leo, what are the Mail running with on Friday?
Well, after Rod Stewart, this is quite apt. So Jeremy Hunt says it's time to stop talking Britain down. So he says we need to talk Britain up instead. I mean, he's dealing in basic movement here. But he's warning the country to brace for a tough year. So he's ruling out tax cuts. I think the average tax take per household has gone up almost £1,000.
Yeah.
And we're already paying so much tax. So it's ridiculous. And he's also ruling out pay rises. He's also ruling out any butter on your toast. I mean, basically, it's all bad news with Jeremy Hunt. And some Tories have told him to ditch the gloom and go for growth. Sir Ian Duncan-Smith has said, unless we lower the burden of costs on people, then we won't get decent or sustainable growth. And this is absolutely true. So that £1,000 per household that's being taken out of people's wallets, that's money that would fuel people who go out and spend it, and they'd spend it a lot more wisely than the government. The government's terrible at spending money.
I thought Liz Truss's idea was about growth. That didn't work out, did it?
Yeah.
Scott, do you have any thoughts on this? I mean, look, it does fit smack of desperation, doesn't it, at this point? Let's just be optimistic.
The thing is, does anybody like Jeremy Hunt? He has such a terrible reputation.
I think...
He dragged himself back into the cabinet, looking behind over his shoulder all the time.
Yeah.
I think he feels like a target. He's just trying to get sympathy or empathy or somebody on his side.
Well, I feel a bit sorry for him.
Why?
I don't know. I think because he is so universally despised, and I don't know.
As health minister, he was actually awful during the pandemic. The pandemic was terrible.
Yeah. OK. Well, we've just got time to have a look at the Guardian's front page. Scott, what are they going with?
A slap in the face, anger at U-turn over Windrush. A lot of Tories are really, really angry because apparently Suella Braverman has confirmed she's not going to implement two key changes that would have increased independent scrutiny of immigration policies. The Windrush scandal was looked at, and then 30 recommendations were made by after the inquiry was handled by Wendy Williams.
I mean, we should clarify. I mean, the Home Office, it was a huge mess up.
It was.
Effectively, all these people who have every right to be here were suddenly told that they're illegal immigrants, and they absolutely weren't.
Some of them hadn't dealt with their paperwork properly throughout their lifespan, but of course they weren't illegal immigrants.
They came here as children.
Right, and some were sent back with the fear of being murdered, and some were murdered when they went back because the people who ran whatever gangsters were in that country didn't know who they were.
Why would they not want to implement some kind of reforms?
Well, there are apparently 27 of the reforms that Wendy Williams suggested in her in her examination of what had happened.
Yeah.
Are going to be implemented, but three key reforms aren't. Things that Priti Patel had confirmed would be.
Yeah.
And they're mostly about independent scrutiny over the way it's being handled.
I mean, what was interesting about when that scandal broke, Leo, when the Windrush scandal broke, I mean, both sides of the political aisle were united. This is absolutely outrageous.
Yeah.
You can't treat people that way. With these people who were invited to come to the country, worked for the country, and then are suddenly treated in this horrendous way. Do you think, though, that those mistakes have made it harder to deal with problems of migration today?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a classic example of the Conservative Party completely dropping the ball. So people in the UK were worried about the high levels of migration, hitting, 1 million or close to 1 million over the last few years. And, that's because of terrorism, grooming gangs, culture clashes and things like that. So the government instead deport people from one of our best loved migrant communities to the Caribbean, the Windrush communities, and they're not even deporting people who are here illegally. It was a complete fail by the government.
Yeah. And now they're targeting students, of course, overseas students.
Yeah.
Trying to sort of weed them out as though they're the problem, sort of educated.
Well, they do smoke a lot of weed.
And there are a lot of universities that are set up as a sort of, a way for people to cheat their way into the country.
The universities really depend on those overseas students' fees. They're like 3 times as much as domestic students.
Coke dealers do too.
Yeah, anyway. Right, that's the front of the papers. But after the break, we're going to be going behind the front pages, and we're going to be talking about the surprising mindset of Tories and the surprising use of loyalty cards. Honestly, it is actually quite interesting. See you in 2 minutes.
This year on GB News, we've got brand new members in the family.
Join us. Across the entire United Kingdom, we cover the issues that matter to you. GB News will always stay honest, balanced and fair. We want to hear whatever is on your mind.
And we don't talk down to you.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you. Britain's watching.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prisons?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Friday's newspapers. I'm Andrew Doyle, he's Leo Kearse, and that one over there is Scott Capurro. So let's kick off with worrying signs for the Conservatives in Friday's Mail. Leo, what's this?
Yes, there's more electoral doom for the Tories forecast as a major new poll finds that middle-aged people think more like their children than their parents on issues like LGBT rights, Brexit, Britishness, whatever that means, public services and the cost of living crisis. So we tend to think that people get more conservative as they get older.
Then the Tories rely on that.
The Tories pretty much rely on that. Everybody, when they're young and idealistic and stupid and don't have any money, they're all for communism and all the rest. The trouble is we've now got a generation of people, myself, middle-aged people who can't afford to buy a home.
It's about that, I think.
Yes, we don't have a stake.
So this is interesting. So really, that idea that people get more Tory as they get older, it has to be tied up with prosperity, right?
Yeah.
So people are...
You have to get richer.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you've got stuff to protect and conserve. Yeah. Then you become conservative.
It's like in China, the agreement the public has with the government is we will give up our rights, we'll give up the free press, we'll give up a judicial system if you provide for the middle class lifestyle. And the same is here. It's true. I think people are willing to give up their morals and their values and join the Tory party if they're assured a comfortable retirement. But that's not assured anymore.
That's very cynical. So what happened to you then, Leo? Because you're still a Tory supporter, ostensibly.
Yeah. No, I'm doing all right. But I don't think the Tories are really Tories anymore. I'd vote for a Reaganite, a low tax, high growth Conservative, not this whatever. It's basically the Labour Party with a different person.
But like you say, I think if there's a reset. If Labour get in for a while, and by the way, all these Tories that are saying they think Labour should get in for a while, they won't be saying that when Labour are actually in, because things will not be...
There's only one Labour Party member I want to head the party, though.
And who's that?
David Miliband.
That's a blast from the past. He's
Oh,
not coming
God, I
back.
love
no,
him.
it's Starmer all the way, I'm afraid.
No.
I think Britain's going to see it's going to go the same way as Italy and Sweden. There's going to be a surprise surge from what's dubbed a far-right party, but is actually, they're not really far-right, they're just the Conservatives from 20 years ago.
Right.
The Greens.
We shall find out.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to move on now to this one on anti-terror from Friday's Times. Scott, what does anti-terror
I always get the stories about schoolboys. Anyway, look, I've done my research. And boys are easily swayed. That's been my experience, at least. But they're easily radicalized, as it turns out. There was a research study done about the PREVENT program, which is a program people call, that schools and public institutions use to prevent terrorism.
Yes.
And there's been more PREVENT reports about terrorist activity amongst young males in school than any other group.
Why is that surprising, though? I mean, terrorists are almost always young men.
Well, I've done a lot of police benefits, and I've been driven home by police late at night. And one of the things they've mentioned is you'd be shocked to find out how many young boys in school are easily radicalized because they've got nothing else to do.
Yeah, but
they don't. After school, there's no programs for them anymore, especially in London. There's nowhere for them to go.
But isn't there also the issue that I don't think teachers are best placed to sort of determine what are the signs of someone being radicalized? I mean, here it says that one teacher misheard the word arms and thought he was saying arms as a gun.
What would you do if you have money? I'd give them alms to the poor. And he thought they were saying I'd give arms to
So then he reports his anti-terror hotline and says, I think I've got the next Osama bin Laden.
It is misused a lot. A lot of these kids are angry because they can't get laid. The article actually says that. And they're reacting to not having sex. Young men who feel like they'll never have sex anyway, so they're just going to blow themselves up.
Well, but that's the other thing, Lou, is boys will often say shocking things to try and push the boundaries. And if they know that there's a teacher sort of looking out for telltale signs, they might give them those signs because they might think it's funny.
Yeah, and it seems, that's meeting the fact that teachers are using this as an opportunity to get rid of kids they don't like. So, if there's a kid you don't like, report him as a terrorist. And the statistics are interesting. So they say far-right people make up 42% of cases.
They do, it's mostly far-right.
But, Islamist radicalisation only makes up 19%. But it'd be interesting to know how many actually go on to do a suicide bombing at a maternity hospital.
It's definitely been exploited. I mean, I interviewed a chaplain, a school chaplain, who was reported to PREVENT because he gave a talk about how you should be able to challenge LGBTQIA plus ideology. And they said that made him a terrorist. So
I've reported the whole production of Funny Girl from Broadway to PREVENT. I don't want them in the UK. There's only one Fanny, as far as I'm concerned. There's one Fanny and only one.
OK, well, that's a good one to clip for the internet. We're going to move on now. More terror in Friday's Telegraph. In this case, the terror in the offices of Facebook when they decided to allow Donald Trump back.
So Meta, that owns Facebook and Instagram, is going to let Donald Trump back on. And this follows Elon Musk has allowed Donald Trump back on Twitter. I don't think he's actually posting on Twitter.
No, but he's on Truth Social.
He's on
so
Truth
he doesn't
Social.
need it.
Yeah, he's on Truth Social with him and about 100 other people. But yeah, now he's back on. And this is being hailed as this sort of victory for free speech. Somehow the fact that these unelected, unaccountable oligarchs that control our lives in Silicon Valley have decided that Donald Trump should be allowed to speak, for a short amount of time until they decide he's not allowed to speak anymore.
It's actually Nick Clegg. Nick Clegg is the one who has said...
Oh, my God,
because he's now in charge of, censorship on Facebook.
That's a
policy guru.
That's a real Wizard of Oz moment when you think of these unaccountable tech overlords, and then it's Nick Clegg. That's a bit weak.
But he's saying, but if he misbehaves, he's off for a year or more.
Oh, right, OK. But what does that mean? I mean, he shouldn't really have been kicked off in the first place.
No, not at all. Sitting president, they left the Taliban, they left Owen Jones on there. I mean, this is an absolute nonsense.
They left the tranny rapist on there. Everyone could do it except Trump.
So you don't think it was about... You think it was an example of censorship, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, I have friends who say they're liberal, who say they're on the side of that Scottish writer that says she should keep her mouth shut.
What?
I know, about the trans issues. And I'm like, surely you're not trying to stand in the way for free speech. No, but she should really just shut up. It's
unbelievable.
OK.
Yeah. OK, well, anyway, the next one is from Friday's Times. For all those big data fans out there, Scott, what's this?
Research involving almost 300 women telltale about their telltale purchases regarding their health. Apparently, a lot of women who ended up testing positive for ovarian cancer were found buying a painkiller for stomach swelling.
OK.
And about 10 months before they tested positive. See. It's a research study done by Imperial College London. They decided to look up through Tesco and other markets what people were purchasing to see if they could trace what their ill health would be, see if they can predict what's going to happen to these people, so they're going to prevent them from getting. Because if you get ovarian cancer in early stages, it increases a woman's chance to survive to 5 years, whereas too late.
Well, it's the case with every cancer, isn't it? Early diagnosis is the best way to...
Especially apparently ovarian cancer. And you can spot symptoms because people are buying these stomach, acid reflux.
Yeah. So but that's interesting. But of course, it doesn't mean that everyone who's buying those products...
No, but a large percentage were. They were really surprised by what they found.
Really?
Actually. Yeah.
What do you make of this, Leo?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of scary that they could see it, 10 months or whatever before they're actually diagnosed.
Yeah.
And it suggests, should they be flagging it up? I don't know. Maybe that would worry people. I mean, it shows the power of big data, I guess.
That's the other thing, is that it's a privacy issue about this kind of thing, isn't there? But then if it leads to saving people's lives...
I think people would appreciate it. I think women would... Yeah, I think really it's such a terrible...
It used to just be dogs that could detect cancer like this. Dogs could
right?
smell... Yeah, some dogs can smell it, apparently. So, a dog runs up to you in the park, starts sniffing you, you think, oh, this is fun. Dog wants to play with me.
Dogs do that all the time.
Certain dogs can do it in certain ways. So
they're really good at anal cancer, dogs.
Let's move on now to an amazing discovery. This is in Friday's Mail. Leo, what's this?
So an Egyptian mummy wrapped in gold is thought to be the oldest ever. It's 4,300 years old. For context, that's older than Cher and Madonna. So this remains of a man. Oh, so men could be mummies in those days. They're actually quite progressive.
Were quite progressive.
Are found at the bottom of a 50-foot shaft near the Step Pyramids. They found this mummy. It's dead old. That's pretty much the whole story.
That is the whole story, but, it is impressive.
It's pretty cool.
It's exciting.
Yeah,
Have you been to the Pyramids of Giza?
Excuse me? No, one of my favorite gay bars in Sheffield. No, I haven't. I've never been to Egypt. I'd like to go, though. I'd love to go to that
check
area.
out this mummy.
I only want to go if I can work, though. I like going to those places and working. I
don't think they've got a sense of humour. I don't think stand-up is really...
Really?
No, not among the pyramids.
Well,
no, I don't think so.
In the UAE, they're up for it.
Oh, are they?
Yeah,
Saudi Arabia, yeah.
Erbil as well in Iraq is opening up. I don't know if that's nearby.
Yeah, they love the comedy.
Keep
it indoors, that's all they ask.
Well, we want to check out these sarcophagi. Anyway, we're going to move on now. That is part 2 in the bag, but after the break, every country on Earth's dream jobs, why biscuits make you fat, and some unwanted advice. See you in 3 minutes.
He's the king of breakfast TV, and he's back. Eamon Holmes, back on the TV with me this morning.
Even remember my name.
I know, it's been 4 months. You have holy water by your bed?
Oh, yes. Already to bless.
Yeah. Oh, Eamon. Oh.
Why do you not believe anything I say?
Eamon Holmes back on GB News Breakfast at 6 a.m.
Every weekend, it's Mark Dolan Tonight. Bigger and better, starting at 8 p.m. Friday and Saturday.
Can't be too safe. Bring it on. Has there ever been a more innuendo feature?
And Sundays, we're on at 9.
It's ridiculous.
Just get on with it. Maybe you should get a proper job.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you.
She's only teasing. Go on. He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one.
Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Friday's newspapers. We're going to go straight to Friday's Times for some unwanted advice.
Yes, so advising friends can harm them, says this Cambridge philosopher, Farbod Aklagi. So he's a moral philosopher at Christ's College, Cambridge University, and he says that everyone has a right to self-authorship. So you should let people make their own mistakes. Don't give them advice like, oh, don't jump in that shark-infested water, or don't marry that person. They've got to make their own mistakes and learn from them and
sounds
grow.
like bad advice to me.
Yeah, and he's giving us advice, and we're not even his friends. So like, what's he even saying? But yeah, the way when he sounds really new agey, he says people have the right to discover who they will be as a result of their choices without interference from others. This is classic philosopher theoretical nonsense.
I mean, Scott, the thing is, you know, you canvass for advice when you're going through certain things in life, and sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong, but it's still self-authorship because you decide ultimately, don't you?
And you emotionally ignore it and screw up your own life anyway, so there's no point, really. Just say what you want to say to people. They won't listen. No one listens to anyone ever.
Okay.
But, you know, I would never tell someone what to do because I don't want to take the responsibility of them failing. Like, I would never tell someone to come out of the closet to their parents. I mean, I did it once, and then that.
But they can disregard that advice.
Yeah, but
they still have their agency.
Yeah, I mean, I was dating a guy once, and I shaved his legs. I should have never done it.
Yeah, but this show isn't really about those.
Oh, right. But anyway, what I'm saying is that he couldn't stop. He became this sort of a hairless guru, and he blamed me for it, really.
And other philosophers say that there's no such thing as free choice anyway. Apparently, you know, all scientific models say there's no free choice. Everything's on rail. We're in a completely it's like billiard balls on a table. So yeah,
but
free choice is an illusion.
I mean, you don't like that at all. We're going to move on to Friday's Mail now.
Oh, right.
Friday's Mail says it has a fascinating map, but it seems pretty depressing to me. Scott.
Well, it's a map that from this group called Remitly. They do a map for migrants who are looking for jobs all over the world, telling people where the most popular jobs that they're seeking are. And they found out through that what people actually want to do for a living.
And it is?
The most popular job in the world is to become a pilot. That's the most
I get that. It's a dream of every child to be able to fly.
It's terrifying. I watched the TV show where the planes crash every night on that show.
Oh, they take that from all the planes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's not just like average planes.
I thought it was the average. That's just what happens daily.
I think those are shows about plane crashes.
It's why I hitchhike. But I
Which
think
is totally safe.
Yeah,
of course.
Totally safe. Yeah. But yeah, so most people want to become pilots. And then it breaks up the jobs by countries. Like some countries, the jobs are more popular. But the third most popular job in the world is dancer. People want to be dancers.
Oh, I can see that as well.
But there's a lot of obese people in the UK. That's a lot of fat dancing.
Oh, you can be a fat dancer now.
Yeah.
You can be a fat dancer.
Really? Obese dancer?
You can be a fat gymnast.
Yeah, you can be fat and be in an advert. It's terrible.
I want to watch that.
But a lot of these jobs are actually kind of rubbish. So pilot, yeah, get that. It's fun. You're in a plane, there's that drinks trolley and stuff. But the second most popular job is being a writer.
Yeah,
you know,
a writer.
just at the point, the week when you're made redundant by Chat GPT. I mean, this is who'd want to be a writer?
I think most people think, well, I can write, so if someone would just pay me, that would be great.
Yeah.
The most popular job in Lebanon being a stand-up comic. I'm only saying, yes, it is.
Okay,
right.
Well, there we go.
So they have a lot to laugh about or cry.
That's true. We're going to move on now to some pretty groundbreaking stuff from Friday's Guardian. Leo.
Yeah, this is actually interesting. So they've done this study, and they found that early years teaching is more important for kids than university. So it's not your university. It's not going to Eton and then Oxbridge or whatever.
Yeah.
That matters. It's your primary education, the education you get from the age of 4. So early literacy and numeracy skills are super important. They found that 1 in 40 primary schools in England produce entire classes likely to earn more than their peers. So if you can get your kid into one of these like really good primary schools, you can save all that money on.
And you have a young child, don't you? So is this going to affect your decisions when it comes to schooling?
I think, yeah. I mean, the way it works in the UK is you've got to sort of move to a house near a good school.
Right. It's a lottery, isn't it? It's a postcode lottery.
It's not a postcode lottery, but you give the money for the schooling to an estate agent instead of the school, which doesn't seem to make any sense to me. If you're paying for a service, you should pay the people providing the service.
It shouldn't be surprising, Scott, should it, that you've got to get them young in order to have greater life prospects.
What do you mean by that? Oh, right, yes, you're right. I want to adopt a child and get them in school young, so that in 10 years they can support me.
Yes,
because I've had enough.
But there are sort of pregnant women who play Mozart next to their bellies because they think it improves the intelligence of the child and the life chances of the child. So it is about,
I talk loudly to my child in a Scottish accent. I don't know if that's the same as Mozart, but I hope so.
I mean, it's beautiful in its own way.
My mom used to dance with me because women love dancing with their little sons between divorces. And by about the age of 5, I wanted to be a dancer. So maybe I should move to South Africa. That's the most popular job in South Africa.
Maybe there's something in it. OK, this one from The Independent. Surely up there with some of the most significant scientific discoveries of all time.
Yes, apparently junk food makes you fat. This is a study published in the Journal of Physiology by the lead author was Dr. Kirsten Browning of Penn State University in the U.S. And these doctors print these studies because they have to publish something, and they want to get famous. And it's all about, in the U.S., it's all about losing weight. And she said that if you eat biscuits, the biscuits create this enzyme in your body that stops your brain from telling you to digest your food and, have an evacuation.
But they're also biscuits, so they're fattening anyway.
They are. They're full of fat. But there is an idea in Ayurvedic medicine, Indian medicine, that talks about having all the channels open.
Yes.
And if you tell your brain that you're going to eat sugar all the time, then the brain's like, oh, then we need more of this, more of this, more of this. We're not going to let it go. We're not going to let it go.
Wait,
because it's
sugar?
addictive.
Sugar's the issue, isn't it? Because you get the crashes and you get the cravings and all the rest of it.
And it never satisfies really 100%. You want more and more and more. Your brain tells you, oh, no, you need more of that, more of that, more of that.
But Leo, the thing is, I keep hearing from body positive activists that being large isn't a problem anyway. Being obese is great.
Oh yeah,
that's really good for you.
That's what they say, and then they die from hypertension. So yeah, this is actually
could have been something else though, Leo.
This
could have been an allergy or something.
It definitely wasn't any sort of accident. But this is this could lead to a new way for people to have eating disorders, so they can develop a drug from this that tweaks your receptors or whatever, so you do feel full. So basically, if you take this drug that makes you feel full, you won't need to eat. I think that's a bit of a danger.
I thought they had drugs like that. Isn't there a drug for use for diabetes that makes people feel full?
Yes.
They do, and also they can do that gastro bypass where they just make the stomach the size of a small grape.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
And then you feel full all the time.
I imagine that's very expensive and quite painful.
They've been doing it since the 1950s, and people really they do it a lot.
People just stop eating biscuits.
Yeah, but the trouble is, I mean, biscuits and stuff like that. This is food that we're basically cavemen and women and cave trans people. But we'd run about in the caves and all the rest of it. We'd never come across food that had fat and sugar and everything, and these and refined carbohydrates. So our bodies. We've still got those caveman bodies, so they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. We've got to get this in.
Well,
this
it is amazing.
This is going to get me through a period of starvation, but we never have the periods of starvation.
Who was the health? It was a health expert the other week was talking about how cakes in the office. That's the same as passive smoking.
Yeah.
It's potentially as dangerous because, as you say, everyone gravitates towards it, and you can't stop.
And if you blow that icing sugar into somebody's lungs.
Yeah. Any excuse to break the monotony. I used to work in an office and like a cake every few hours. People lie about their birthdays just to pretend.
Oh,
it's just a bit of fun.
Well, when I was a teacher, they used to bring. There was one person who brought in a whole cake every Monday morning, and everyone used to go crazy for this stuff. But
did a child jump out of it?
No, that didn't happen. That would have made it more interesting. But everyone got very plump.
Yeah.
After a few months.
Yeah.
So, nothing wrong with having plump teachers.
Yeah, we'll have to bring back willpower and things like that.
Willpower.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. OK, we're going to move on now to... Excuse me, this is a story from Friday's Times. Surely evidence against patriarchy, Leo.
So this is, sticking with the sugar thing. So the sugar tax has prevented obesity for 5,000 Year 6 girls a year. A bit of a clunky sentence, but not boys. So they brought in a tax. The government brought in a tax on sugary drinks, and it's working apparently. It's stopping girls aged 10 and 11 from becoming obese. There's still 18% of them who are obese. So 62,000 of them are still obese. And 5,000 of them thought, no, I'm not paying 25.
But girls respond to health guidance a lot more than boys do. And especially if they attach the sugar product to a sport athlete, then boys go mad and they just want it.
But there's a broader issue here about nanny state, isn't there? This idea that, the government are trying to regulate the way that people eat. Why not just give the people the information about what is healthy and what is not healthy and let them trust individuals to make their own choices?
It's because people are stupid.
Yeah,
so you can't,
Leo...
I know people in Scotland who only drink fizzy pop. They only drink cans of...
choice.
Yeah,
they know that there's a healthy...
the child hasn't, and the parents are feeding the kids through a bottle Fanta orange drink. And that's not that child.
This is the trouble. We've got a culture in some places like Scotland is a classic example where people put terrible things into their body.
Yeah, but I'm surprised at you saying this, Leo, because one of the major issues with the SNP is that they are too nanny status. They ban 2-for-1 pizzas.
Yeah.
They have bans on minimum pricing on alcohol and all this sort of stuff. And surely you would be against that because you think that the problem in Scotland is that the SNP don't trust people enough.
Yeah, no, I mean, basically what the SNP could do to reduce people drinking all these sugary drinks in Scotland is make the tap water taste nicer. The tap water in Glasgow tastes horrible.
Is it?
And yeah, and it's one of those weird things. Everybody in Scotland's, the tap water in London must be horrible. No, it tastes like Evian compared to the tap water in Glasgow.
Why is
but obviously
that,
the SNP are doing the tap water on the cheap. So it's a conspiracy that goes right to the top. They're funded by Big Iron Brew.
This sounds like a complete made-up
Craziness.
lie.
Sounds like
yeah.
craziness to me.
Yeah, Leo's a bit crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, he's right, though. People are stupid, and fat people are particularly dumb. And you have to tell them.
True.
You have to tell them, look, it's going to kill you. Don't drink it.
But
Don't eat it.
You don't think that...
And still they're shoveling those chips in.
No, but they know that it's bad for
It's such a burden on the NHS, though. What about when I need help with a facelift in the NHS? Or I need something tucked or tightened or pulled or squeezed or pinched or nudged?
It's all about you, Scott.
Well, when I need that, if there's a fatty next to me who's eating a chocolate bar, I'm going to have to kill them with my bare hands.
And on that note, that is the end of this part. But coming up, why hard times create rugged men, what age men should stop wearing leather jackets, and why a third of Brits stink. See you in 2.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me. So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, Andrew Pierce here. Join me every Friday lunchtime for a proper no-nonsense debrief of the week's events. With special guests in the studio and the GB News team on the ground, I'll be getting you up to date with news, some intelligent discussion, and my own sharp take. The weekend starts here with me every Friday lunchtime on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236,
and YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Friday's newspapers. And seemingly, there is an upside to the hard times we're living through. Scott, what's this?
Apparently, there was researchers at a university I can't pronounce in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, have found that women are more attracted to rugged men like Chris Hemsworth and Jason Momoa during times of uncertainty. And men are attracted to softer women with,
voluptuous women.
Well, like Selena Gomez,
Tender.
with smoother lines and shadows and outer facial contour.
Are these not just sort of perpetual beauty aesthetic standards?
They are, but I think people feel more comforted by, like women feel more comforted during time of trouble by men with strict jaw lines and the kind of big rugged faces. They feel like they can be protected.
How did they find this out? So they just did some kind of study?
The Dutch are fetishists. But we're all hoping to be saved. We all want something on a white horse to walk by and kind of say, or a camel if you're in the Middle East. Those boys on camels used to come by all the time. When I was there in where they did the Super Bowl, where the football game. What is it?
America.
Yeah, no, here with the one they just did that game. Which one was it?
What, Rounders?
Oh, the World Cup.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
In Qatar. If you're there, those boys just walk by on camels and they wink at you, and you're the perfect height to.
I mean,
anyway,
look, this is not surprising. I mean, look at these images that are coming up. Like,
Yeah.
why would it be surprising that those sort of men are attractive?
Well, it's because it's the difference. So in good times, women are more attracted to just your sort of, weaker, wimpier men because they don't need protecting.
Yeah,
They're
they
looking
don't.
for, this is a guy who's not going to run away. He's not going to abandon me with the 19 children that I've got in the cave. So they want to go for the sort of wussy, the simp type guy. But then, at times Putin's knocking on the door, everybody's starving to death, if you read The Guardian, then you want somebody big and strong who's going to...
Like Putin to save you.
Well,
this
he's
might
not
be why...
big and
Is
he's
that
not
why
strong.
Putin does those photo shoots where he's wrestling bears?
I think he's compensating. Because he's actually he's a very small man. He wears these weird high heels that are actually like,
Really?
You wouldn't get Charlize Theron wearing these. The heels are so high. He's an absolute fraud. He's like David Brent in The Office.
He has tiny hands. He can't fight back.
Yeah. But I thought the whole point about him is that he's a real manly man and muscular, and that's the...
You see him winning fights. That's because he's Vladimir Putin. So nobody's going to beat him in a game of judo because you're going to leap from a hospital window.
So do you think this story is going to make more men inclined to go to the gym and sort of beef up?
I hope so.
Well, you've been going to the gym quite a lot.
I go to the gym. It doesn't really change your jawline or anything, which
No, it
is
doesn't
what
do
you
that,
need.
does
But
it?
you can probably go to Turkey and get that done. But
I meet a lot of women in yoga.
I think that
if you want to meet a woman, yoga's a good place to do it.
Yeah, but yoga doesn't make you muscular.
Well, the problem with men these days is that because everybody's getting fat produces estrogen, so you become basically this sort of feminized non-man. Fat men are basically not men. And they're self-transitioning. And so, basically men should get down the gym, and we need a more testosterone-addled population.
Leo, that sounds a bit gay.
As you get, it does. Leo does sound a bit gay. But as you get your hand off my leg. But as you get older, as you get older, the rumors are true. As you get older, your hormone levels start to kind of flatten out. So the men look like women. If you see older couples who have been together for like 30 years, you can't tell the gender of either one of them really. It's interesting, isn't it?
That's the Scottish prisons.
Yeah, exactly. We all need to be in prison. No, we all need to do a couple of push-ups. I think you're right. A couple of squats, a couple of leg lifts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all the doctors say, even if you don't want to be sort of really hench or butch or whatever you want to call it, just a bit of resistance training.
It's good for your bone mass. What do you do?
What do I do?
Yeah.
Very, very little. I do sometimes play backgammon. They're quite heavy pieces.
I get, for you they are.
That's a form of exercise.
Yeah.
Doesn't that count?
I guess, yeah.
No. OK, we're going to move on to another article now then. This is yet more incredibly important news. This is from Friday's Telegraph, Leo. This is about jackets?
Yeah, so basically they're saying that men, when you get to a certain age, you can't wear a leather jacket anymore. You just look like, David Brent. And he's coming up again, David Brent.
Yeah.
But, so this has been spurred by the fact that Brad Pitt and George Clooney, who are 59 and 62, I can't believe Brad Pitt's 59. I feel slightly older now.
He's 59.
He's 59. So they turned up to some. They're filming a new Apple series called Wolves, and they were wearing matching leather jackets, and apparently they looked a bit naff. But I think this is wrong. George Clooney's obviously going to look terrible in a leather jacket. He's he's too much of a smoothie, like putting Pierce Brosnan in a leather jacket. But people like Billy Idol, Iggy Pop, David Hasselhoff, they're always going to look amazing in a leather jacket.
Now, that's an image apparently on the back wall of me in a leather jacket, generated by AI.
I know, absolutely. I almost threw up when I turned around and saw that. I choked on my own vomit.
I don't actually own any leather jackets.
No, you shouldn't. You should never. I've made sure that you can't buy them. We've talked, me and some local retailers. But it depends on the leather jacket. It does. I have a blazer-styled, tied at the waist, brown leather jacket. It's purple label, Ralph Lauren.
Yeah. It doesn't suit any of us.
It looks all right on you. It looks a bit porny on you.
That's pure blue steel right there. Oh, my God.
If it's purple label Ralph Lauren, anyone can wear it. I think it really depends on the leather. It really does.
But why should it matter what age you are? Surely you should be able to wear whatever you want, whatever makes you feel comfortable. These are just fashion.
Are you going to go skating at 80 with tiny shorts on, and everyone's going to have to deal with that?
Well, maybe I'll wear whatever I want. Oh, there you are, Scott, in a leather.
And I look
great. Look at that, yeah. Look like you're going to solve some crimes in the 70s.
I'm just saying. It depends on how you walk and how you wear it.
It conveys masculine confidence.
Well, that's the thing. My husband and I are going to a resort soon, and he really doesn't want me to bring my pack of Speedos. I have a pack. And he doesn't want me. He doesn't want me down by the pool in a Speedo. I'm like, I'm going to wear this. I'm going to wear it.
Well, there we are. You stand by whatever you want to wear.
Yeah.
I support your right.
He's like, you're going to be a pedo and a speedo. I'm like, I won't. It'll all be fine. And the kids won't notice.
He thinks you're too old to dress that
Yes, and he says, you know, what if the giblets pop out?
Isn't so much of this just rooted in ageism?
It is.
It's just ageism. It's like what people get older.
Yeah.
Why should they have to dress in what do old people wear?
Nothing
gowns?
sometimes, yeah. Sometimes they answer the door completely naked.
I think some old people can really rock it. It really depends how sort of gruff and manly you are. Because I think women subliminally know, they know that you're wearing another animal's skin, so subliminally they think you've torn a cow apart and put it on your body with
I zips.
Ah,
haven't actually thought of it that way. But okay, but I couldn't do it then, I'm vegetarian.
Right, yeah.
Although I'm not going to eat the jacket.
Yeah, well, do you wear leather shoes?
Yes, I do.
So you're a liar then. You're not a vegetarian, you're a liar.
But you wear the outside. Do you think the cows are going to be fine with their outside missing?
I think shoes are made from the bits of the cow that it sheds naturally.
No, my meat is taken from animals that died making your shoes.
Yeah.
I mean...
So my meat is ethical.
I will consider that moral.
Your boots are made from creatures.
Oh, for goodness
And
sake.
you're a lion veg.
OK, we're going to move on now to the Daily Star. This one is about a youthful penis?
Yes. There's this guy in the U.S., of course, in New York, named Brian Johnson, founder of an experimental anti-aging program called Project Blueprint. In his 30s, he sold his tech company to PayPal or somebody for like, 30 million. So he's rich and he's bored, and he's 45 and he wants to look and appear and feel younger. So he takes 25 supplements in the morning, he sleeps a certain amount of hours with a mask on, he does a certain exercise program, eats certain foods, he's vegetarian like you, and yet he looks younger than his own age, unlike... And so he's saying, look, if you do this, if you, put about $2 million a year into your own health, you can look young like me.
Well, why don't we all just do that then? Honestly, I wish someone would have said that earlier.
If he'll give me $2 million of his own money, I'll do it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the flaw in his plan.
He's got 30 physicians looking after him.
Unbelievable.
30 medical technicians.
But also, this is ridiculous. I saw a picture. You showed me a picture of this guy, and he does look young. He looks young, but he looks weird and plasticky.
It's the lighting, because in some of the photos he looks kind of his age, but his body, his body's fantastic. Admittedly amazing.
But he's got that uncanny valley look. He looks like an AI version.
He does. He looks. He looks like
it's the same when people get Botox and stuff. It doesn't necessarily make you look younger. It makes you look different.
And also, these are years where he could be having fun. He's 45 years old, and he could be having a great time. Instead, he's going to sleep with lettuce leaves on his face instead of going out and having fun with strippers.
He's not even old then.
He's not even old. He's 45, and he says
he wants to look 18. Feel 18. He's got the gums of an 18-year-old, and apparently he gets nighttime erections that an 18-year-old might get.
Yeah, but how does he know what a teenage erection is like? That's what I'm worried about.
I think he was a teenager once.
No, but it's been 27 years since he was a teenager.
Okay, well...
So how is he... Nobody's memory is that good.
Well, he called me an ass, and I'd done a lot of research. But I just think that he wants all these things that are out of his grasp, that he's wasting his money going after. When you're right, he could be in Italy, skiing right now with a bunch of fun people.
This is the problem when people get so rich. And like you say, probably a bit bored. And what does he do with all his money? And, and also afraid of mortality. And,
And he can't go out in the sun at all.
What?
No, he can't.
He's also a vampire.
Yeah. He can't go out in the sun. That's a high price to pay.
His house is completely blacked out.
Yeah. See, this is no fun. This is he's just going to be Mr. Burns.
But he has the lungs of a 25 -year-old.
Yeah.
In fact,
This is why great wealth.
But you can buy the lungs of a 25-year-old if you're that rich.
Yeah, you can harvest it.
Exactly.
You can probably grow them.
Yeah. Well, the way gene therapy is going, I mean, in a few years' time, you will be able to, reconfigure the DNA and everything in your lungs. Right. Probably. I don't know.
Yeah. OK, well, we're going to end on this story. This is another earth-shatteringly important discovery. This time it's about cats. Leo.
So it's in The Guardian, obviously, because The Guardian is solely bought by middle-aged women who own cats. But it says, feline uncertain. Cats do give clues if the fur's about to fly, according to this study. So
they mean fight, basically?
Yeah. So basically you can tell, experts, I mean, they say experts, they're just people who look at cats, but they reviewed videos of cats. They got paid to do this as well. Most people just do this for free.
They're called expats.
Social media, ex-cats. So some interactions are playful, so when the cats are lying belly up or pouncing, whereas some interactions are aggressive and they're going to fight. This is arching the back and retreating. Everybody knew that already. This is no new information.
Now, why do you need a study to determine when cats are going to fight? Why would that be necessary, Scott? What's the point?
I'm just wondering why this was a headline story, and was it ever on the front page of anything?
It wasn't on the front page. It was in The Guardian.
Oh, right. Well, that's the story, yeah.
Is that a pun, Leo? Was it a pun?
No.
No, you said it like it was a pun.
Oh, right, no, I was just saying it.
Just saying.
It's from a university in Slovakia. Does that have any pertinence?
It just seems like one of these non-stories that the
Oh, and the doctor was a cat owner herself, and she was hanging out with her cats.
Okay.
I just
Well,
took
I'm
a few
glad
photos.
all this money is
No
going
children.
into research about when cats
I guess
have a
all the
fight.
things going on in that
Guardian
part of
should
the
just,
world.
at the top, they should say, why don't you have children instead of just, putting all your time and resources into these
Are you
cats?
going to die alone? That's the question.
Yeah. That's the end of
We're not
tonight's show,
talking-
unfortunately.
eating
We've
British-
run out of time, Scott,
The
I'm
dirty
afraid.
British.
No, we've
British
run out of
don't shower.
time.
Oh.
But anyway, before we go, let's take a quick look at Friday's front pages. The Daily Mail is running with Hunt, time to stop talking Britain down. The Telegraph has Sturgeon trans law in disarray after rapist climb down. Friday's Eye has Zahawi hands over tax returns as Tories urge him to go now. Friday's Guardian has a slap in the face anger at U-turn over Windrush. And Friday's Mirror, Rod Stewart, we are failing. He's not happy about the Tories. Friday's Express has Mr. Hunt, can we please start talking Britain up? And finally, Friday's Daily Star has unsettling news. We're all doomed because of AI. That's it for this evening. Thanks to my guests. Headliners will be back tomorrow at 11 o'clock. See you there.
Your boot.
This year on GB News, we've got brand new members in the family.
Join us. Across the entire United Kingdom, we cover the issues that matter to you. GB News will always stay honest, balanced and fair. We want to hear whatever is on your mind.
And we don't talk down to you.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
Britain's watching.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison? I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. Over a drink, we have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. There's never been a more interesting but also critical time in British politics, and I can't wait to bring you the biggest stories of the day with the best factual accuracy and also a few of my own opinions thrown in. We'll engage in passionate but always polite debate